Hello and welcome to video 7 in our expressions unit. This is going to be about subtracting expressions, pretty similar to adding. Subtracting can get a little tricky because, as we'll see, signs are super important when you're subtracting expressions. So, first thing, we got this task says find the difference between the expressions 9c plus 20 and 5c minus 10. So let's look into this. How is this related to subtracting expressions? Well, there's the key word. The difference means to subtract the two expressions. If the order is not specified, we're going to go ahead and subtract the expressions in the order that they are given. So let's set up this subtraction. Difference means to subtract. Here it is. First expression, 9c plus 20. Let's put that in parentheses because it's a quantity. The minus sign, I know it's a little small, tried to put it in orange here. I'll just highlight it. Minus 5c minus 10. Okay, so subtraction, different than addition, what we've been doing in the last section. Regrouping, this is important. Now let's look at this carefully. You'll see that we have a 9c minus 5c, okay? That's because we start with a 9c and we are subtracting. Again, that's what we're doing today. So 9c minus 5c. What's the plus in the middle? Well, I've wrote it down here. It's plus because there's two groups. So we're making these groups of like terms. In the groups, we're subtracting because that's what we're doing, finding the difference. But the groups themselves are always going to be added together because it's the idea of different types of things. So subtraction on the inside, addition in between. You'll notice in the second part of this expression now we're doing 20 minus negative 10. It's 20 minus negative 10 because again we're subtracting, but it's a negative number. Two signs in a row that are minus. Subtract each set. Okay, 9c minus 5c. That is 4c. 9 minus 5, the coefficient subtract, you get 4c. 20 minus negative 10, that's going to be addition because you're subtracting the opposite. You're subtracting a negative. So we've got 4c plus 30. So here's an example, playing Fidditch. This is similar to Quidditch. I made up this game. There's a picture of people who are actually playing Quidditch, which is the fun fact that this game can actually be played in England, not really flying as it is in Harry Potter, but looks fun to me. Fidditch, I made it up, but here's the situation. The Larks and the Sparks are playing a game of Fidditch. Teams are going to score 10 points for what's called a goal and 6 points for what's called a pole. So two different types of scores. We got two questions. How can you represent the total score in a game for each team using expressions? Part B, how can you represent the difference in the two teams' scores using expressions? What do we got to do first? Well, we got to choose variables. We do not know how many of each goal and each pole each team has scored. So it's an unknown quantity. We have to have 4 variables, which we will see. We've got to know the number of the goals that the Larks scored. I've chosen G for that. That matches the word goals. But also another variable, the P, for the number of poles that the Larks scored. Now moving on to the second team, we have to have a different variable for the number of goals that the Sparks scored because they probably scored a different number of goals, so it needs to be a new variable. And also Q, the letter after P, for the number of poles that the Sparks scored. We have 4 variables in this problem, 2 teams with 2 different types of scores. So let's put this together and answer question A. Here's the answer. Larks, the total points that they scored is 10 times G, 10 times the number of goals, plus 6 times P, 6 points for every pole. 10G plus 6P. That's what they scored in the game. Same thing for the Sparks, but it's 10H plus 6Q because we've got those 2 different variables. Part A, pretty easy. This is back what we were learning in the first section, the second section of this unit. Now for part B, how can you represent the difference in the 2 team scores? Well, here it is. Let's write it as a difference. Difference means subtract. Starting with the the Larks team, because that's the order in which they're given. So putting that in parentheses, because it's a quantity, it's an idea for the number of points that the Larks scored, 10G plus 6P. Subtract from that the number of points the Sparks scored. And again, in parentheses, that's an idea. Let's look at this difference. Can we do anything with it? Can we simplify it? Can we rewrite it? Turns out we can't really rewrite it that well. There's no like terms in this expression, right? We've got these 4 different variables, G, and we've got H, and we've got P, we've got Q. None of those are like terms. We can't actually subtract them or subtract their coefficients. I've just rewritten it slightly, which you can see that I've written it as the 10G minus 10H. That would be the number of goals that each team scored as a difference, plus the number of poles that each team scored as a difference. I have made an error here. This should be a Q in the second parentheses, 6P minus 6Q. Now you don't have to do that because again there's no like terms, so really the answer could just as well be what we had in B here. There's nothing that we can actually perform the subtraction. We've just written it as a difference. Let's move on to the second example. Framing a picture. So here's a visual example of the difference. Charlita is gonna make a frame for a piece of artwork that she intends to make. She doesn't yet know the exact dimensions of the work, only in terms of X. She does know though that she's gonna make a frame that's 4 inches wide on all sides because that's what she wants to do. What is going to be the area of the frame that she needs to make? She might need to know the area because she's buying wood, she's buying materials. So what is the total amount of material basically that she's going to put around this picture, which would go in the center, painting the piece of art? So we're looking at the diagram, right? We see in the diagram, we see the 4 inches of width in the frame. That's clear. It's a 4-inch wide frame. And we've got 2 dimensions on the inside given. We've got the width of her artwork, which does look known, actually it's 13 inches. And then the height of her artwork, which is 3x plus 6 inches. And that's kind of the unknown. She's kind of planning it out. She's not certain how high it's going to be yet. So let's see, how are we going to proceed through this problem? And on your notes, you're going to do some words and some math. So let's look at the steps that we might think about to find out how much area her frame would be. First of all, basic idea, right? The area of any rectangle is the length times the width. We clearly have rectangles in this problem. Second, the area of the frame itself, the gold part that we see in the picture, is going to be the area around the outside of the frame minus the area of her picture, which is the area of the inside, right? So this is a very important idea that when we take a hole out of something, and a frame is basically a rectangle with a rectangular hole, we subtract. That's why it's in this section, is that we're subtracting an outer area minus a smaller inner area. Okay. So what are the areas? Well, there's a lot of math here. I'm just going to go through and kind of slow down a little bit. So the area of the outside of the frame is more complex than the inside. You see that it's 13 plus 8. Well, why is it 13 plus 8? Well, it's 13 wide on the inside, and that is going to be her picture, her artwork, but then it's plus 8 because it's 4 inches on the left and 4 inches on the right. 4 plus 4 is 8. That's that additional width, 13 plus 8. Same thing for the height or the length. It's 3x plus 6 on the inside, but again, adding 2 kind of borders, right? Each border is 4 inches, so 4 times 2 is 8, and so we're going to add 8 to that inner length of 3x plus 6. We're doing 2 more steps. So 13 plus 8 is 21. That's clear. Then 3x plus 6 plus 8 is 3x plus 14. Where's the 14 coming from? 6 plus 8. The 3x is still 3x. It's an unlike term. When you multiply, you're going to use the distributive property, right? We've got a 21 as a multiplier. What's 21 times 3x? 21 times 3 is 63, so we've got 63x. Got to do it twice. What's 21 times 14? Maybe pulling out your calculator here. 21 times 14 is 294. Check my work. That is the area of the entire picture with no hole. So you got to add those two borders, 8 inches on those sides after you take both of them. 4 plus 4 is 8. So adding those to the inner width. The inside is much easier, right? It's clear that the width is 13 and the height or the length is 3x plus 6. Again, we're going to use the distributive property. Here we go, 13 times 3x. We already did that over there. 39x. 13 times 3 is 39x. 13 times 6, 78. Check my work. It'd be good to have a calculator when you're watching these videos. So we've got these two areas. What's good is that the area of the inside looks smaller than the area of the outside. It should definitely be smaller, typically. So what are we going to do next? Well, we're going to subtract, right? So the area, again, the area of the outside of the frame minus the area of the inside of where the picture is, that's going to be the area of the frame itself. So we've got our 63x plus 294. That's the outside. Subtracting the 39x plus 78 on the inside. We always use parentheses around these quantities. So we rewrite it as groups. Subtraction on the inside because we're subtracting these quantities. So 63x take away 39x. And plus on the outside, 294 minus 78. This is how we would regroup and write the subtraction. 63x minus 39x is 24x. Check my work. 294 minus 78 is 216. Check my work. The answer would be 224x plus 216 square inches. And that's the area of the frame she would need to make. There's a lot going on in this problem. So you might want to stop the video and kind of go over it or rewind and see if there's anything that you should check out again. Here's a main thing that we need to be careful about when we're doing subtraction. The most important thing is pay close attention to the signs. So when you're subtracting, you at least have one minus sign from the subtraction, but you could have more because of negative numbers. Look at the following example. What kind of errors have been made? Here's a problem. It says subtract. Look at it carefully. Maybe stop the video. Here is how someone has regrouped the like terms to do their subtraction. Again, stop the video and look at this and please identify there are 3 errors that someone has made when they were regrouping this expression. So I hope that you stopped the video, but here's those errors, okay? So let's look at them. What should be in the first place? Well, in the first place, this first yellow error, it should be a plus. On the outside of the parentheses, when we're doing subtraction, it's always plus. And that means that we just have a group with another group with another group. It's addition. On the other hand, the second error, which is highlighting the plus right now, on the inside, we are always doing subtraction. When we're subtracting 2 expressions, we're subtracting the terms. So the second error here, again, should be flipped from plus to minus. The last error is that someone was subtracting, which is correct, negative 16w minus something, but what they should be subtracting is a negative 13w, not a positive 13w. So let's see what the regrouping should have looked like. Here it is. We've fixed the errors. You might want to stop the video again, work this out, and see what it should be when we've done the subtraction. Maybe you stop the video, but let's see what the answer is. 9t plus 3v minus 3w. If this is difficult for you, or if you got the wrong answer, Again, make sure you're using your calculator. Make sure you know where that negative sign is. It's right next to the decimal point at the bottom of the calculator. Let's move on to the last slide. Algebraic subtraction just means doing the problem. There's no context. Work it out. Here's two problems. I'm not going to read them out loud to you, but again, paying attention to that last slide, setting up your regrouping with subtraction on the inside, addition on the outside, what are you going to get? Let's see. Please pause the video. I will show you the answers when you unpause. I hope you paused the video. I hope you worked it out. Here are the answers to these two problems. Let's see how you did. 5p minus 7.1r plus 2, negative 1 1/5 k plus 43m plus 91. Again, you may have made a mistake. See if you can figure out why. Or I may have made a mistake. If you can find a mistake in one of these videos, let me know. I would be really happy to know that and knowing that you're paying close attention. But ask any questions when you get to class. I hope you enjoyed video 7.